Today, a podcast that prides themselves for being process oriented is going to plant our flags, not just on players, but on the numbers, the data points, whether it is production, athleticism, or that charting we're seeing from Matt Harmon at reception perception. Who are our guys that we are just going to be grabbing every chance we get, getting way higher exposures and truly in on? Stick around for all that and more. And welcome into the Dyno Construction Podcast. I think this episode is one of the scariest ones to do, right? Like, it's very easy to just say, I'll take the side of the trade with more value, versus saying, I really think that this guy, I'm going to end up with 35, 40% exposure to him, even when I probably shouldn't. It's a little more out on a cliff. I think, JP, this is more your wheelhouse than it is David and my wheelhouse, but always very fun to be taking these. Let's just talk a little bit about how we go through the process of developing. I'll let JP go first because I think you tend to develop guys.
I definitely do. I think part of it is what your early feelings are on a player and how that develops. Some of it can be a little bit process oriented, honestly. Like Justin, I think having like late round, right? You'll find some guys in that range because you kind of want to target players in that area. But also, it's like the advanced stats. Like, what do I care about more? What things do I not care about, right? Like for tight ends, do you care about blocking that much or not, right? And depending on how much you weigh that, you could be really in on a guy or really out on a guy. And for me, I love reception perception, so that's going to help a lot of my process as well. Just combining that with analytics and a little bit of what I see on film as well as treats.
Yeah, I guess for me, when it comes to my guys, I like to have a little bit of fun with it. I think, Justin, I think you're the one who says this a lot. It's kind of like that 80-20 rule where 80% of my moves are process-based and 20% I'm allowed to do a little player-takey kind of process moves there as long as you're not going crazy. And when you're talking about my guys, you're planting some flags. I'm still going to let my process outweigh me. I'm not going to go crazy to get these guys. But they're guys I liked watching. They're guys who maybe have a story I liked even. Like, it could be even that. One of my guys is someone JP and I found early in the season, and he started rising up draft boards. He's fizzled out a little bit lately, but like that's part of it too. Like it was a fun ride this season to watch him gain value. And so yeah, I root for the guy. So that's part of it. And then one of my guys is someone I just found out about late, but I really like his profile. So it's almost all data driven. So it really just depends, but it definitely, I let myself have a little bit more fun with it than if we're just doing straight prospect evaluation.
I do think I have a little process in it where I make sure not to have too many my guys on the high end of the draft because I think I'm not that good. I don't think many people are that good at evaluation of rookies coming into the NFL. A lot of people have very good processes on how they analyze the numbers, the film, whatever it is, right? And they do better than the average. But I do think it's important to get some exposure to most rookies. I mean, I'll avoid people altogether. Like I avoided Anthony Richardson altogether. I traded those picks for value. Right? I didn't avoid the value of him. I just traded it for fair value. So like I'll avoid players altogether. I've only ever rostered Jamison Williams on one team, and that was this season in a best ball league. That's where I want to have him. So like I'll avoid people. But for the most part, at the high end, I like not to have too many my guys. My process with my guys is, are they a late second or cheaper? If they are, like that's my number one criteria. I'm going to have a guy that I'm drafted in the first round. That's one of my plant most of my flags on later round guys. I think JP mentioned that earlier. All right, so now that we've kind of talked about what we're doing, what we're looking at, let's go ahead and talk about our guys. And I'll talk about my one flag plant that is not a late round guy. So we have 3 my guys each. Typically going to have highest value guys to the left. We're going to talk about those first. So for me, it's tight end. I talked about him in our 109 video, 110 video a little bit that we just put out. And Eli Stock, Vanderbilt tight end. I love what he did from a production standpoint. Hours, 2.55 yards per out run, rate first 0.13 first down per out run. Not sure quite. That's a metric a lot of people care about. And that's a good number for it. I still need to care a little bit more about the yards per run than some of these other metrics. He is a decent yak guy per reception, right? He's not getting 10 yards after the catch per reception, but 0.6, right? It's not catch and fall down at tight end, and I want to avoid catch and fall down at tight end. And more importantly, the reason I think he's not catching tight end is the RAS score, right? This is a guy broke 2 combine records, right? Tight end record for vertical jump, tight end record for broad jump. He's only 240. He ran a 4.51 40. It's just, he's checking most of the boxes. I would like that size to be a little bit higher. I'd like to be a little bit bigger, a little taller. If he was an inch taller, if he was 10 pounds heavier, 5 pounds heavier, I'd feel a little better. But I think he's going to play at that weight. I think he might be a little slower when he plays at that weight, but it's not going to be so much that it matters, right? He's not going to be Dalton Kincaid playing slot when he's not good enough to play slot. He really should be tight end. I think he's going to be actually a guy that can beat people kind of out of the slot, and I hope he doesn't lose tight end eligibility. I really think that this guy has the potential to have a tight end 1 overall season. And if he never reaches that, I think he definitely has the potential to have multiple years of the actual difference-making tight end, right? Top 3, 4 type of guy. Does he need to get into a situation where he's on the field 85% of the time? Yes. Will that be year 1? I think he has a better chance than Sadiq to be a productive tight end year 1. I think if you like Sadiq better, there's a pretty good chance you can flip Stowers for Sadiq at some point year 1, just because I think he'll have a Fannin-esque type of game at some point, right? Where he gets 11 receptions, right? If he ever gets that, the sky is the limit for this guy from a value standpoint. So even if you don't fully believe, I think you'll have a chance to profit on him and where he's going in your rookie drafts. And so far in leagues where I've had a chance to take stock, 2 leagues so far, I have him right now in 2 leagues. Although I will admit I traded for him in 1 post-draft, so I didn't draft him in both. I just really, really love the profile, the production, and the athleticism on this young guy.
Yeah, I think he's a very intriguing prospect. I do prefer my tight ends to block. I don't think they have to, but I prefer them to. When it's coming to who I selected, Justin was saying he took 1 early guy, a couple of later guys. I decided to do 1 early, 1 mid, 1 late. So my early guy, someone if you've been following for a while, you probably already know who I'm going to say. It is my wide receiver 1 in the class still, Jordan Tyson. I still love all 3 of these guys. I still think this could change come post NFL draft. But I just love Jordan Tyson. And until I get a reason not to have my wide receiver 1, that's where he's going to be. 57th percentile career yards per route run. Not terrific, but that's a stat I care about. You pair that 68th percentile first down per route run. Another thing that's pretty good but not elite. Think about the offense he was in, though. It wasn't great, but he dominated that offense's passing game while he was there. 94th percentile career dominator, 97th career percentile target share, and 99th percentile breakout age at just over 18. Also had an 89th percentile success rate against zone per reception perception. He didn't do great in the man or press on reception perception, full transparency. Even Matt did mention seeing some good reps against zone in his profile. It just needs to get that consistency up, something hopefully some good coaching can do. He's a great route runner, and I do think that helps him beat press occasionally. Unfortunately, if you get your hands on him, you're probably going to win the rep as a corner. He does struggle with physicality, both against press, at the catch point, the ball in his hands. He has some injury concerns. You could argue that's a physicality concern. So I think that's definitely something that you can't just look over. He's played all 3 positions. His route running is very high level. I do think that he can improve with the ball in his hands after. You see, he moves so fluid before he gets the ball in his hands, and then it's like he's scared now once he gets the ball in his hands. So if someone can coach that out of him, I think he can be pretty good as a yak guy too. I mean, he got the Amari Cooper comp from Matt Harmon. That's arguably the best in the league at any point in time, but he was always really good. So I'll take that out of him. I really like Tyson as a prospect. I really hope he gets to go somewhere where he can be the alpha, because I think he has that in him.
He's a great player. He was coming into the season as kind of the consensus wide receiver 1. Things have cooled off a little bit. I've cooled on him a little bit too. The wide receiver that I'm going to talk about, I actually think you can make a case that he's better than Jordan Tyson, and I'm going to make that case. So KC Concepcion, before I get to comparing, is my guy. I love KC. I think he's checking just about every single box that you want from a wide receiver. I was very curious what his size was going to be. He came in like a quarter inch under 6 foot. He's going to get rounded up because sites, they round up or down for height. So he's going to be listed at 6 foot, under 95 pounds. Love that, right? I have no issues with that. Most fantasy wide receivers that are elite scorers are in between 5'11" and 6'2" for the most part. So he fits right inside those size parameters. And I think he's the best route runner in this class. I mean, reception perception paints this picture. His man coverage is 92nd percentile, 87th percentile, and zone 81st. So it doesn't matter where you put him. He's against man, zone, press. He's going to crush it. And also, we know that he is a dynamic athlete with the ball in his hands. I think if you look at the top 6 wide receivers in this class, he's right in that argument to be the best after catch threat. Like, you got Omar Cooper, I'd probably give it to him. But between Mekhi Lemon and Casey Concepcion is close, and I think Casey Concepcion is faster than Mekhi Lemon. I think of the top 6 wide receivers, you look at between Omar and Concepcion for the fastest in that group overall too. So he's got the size, the speed, the route running, and also he has the early breakout age, which that's what great for Jordan Tyson's profile is. We saw as an 18-year-old he broke out. Casey Concepcion did the same thing as a true freshman. He had a 28% target share in 2023 at North Carolina State, and I was a little bit worried about him as a Devy player because I was like, oh man, this guy only plays in the slot his first 2 years, but he continued to grow. Like, I see a very hardworking player because he went from a slot only guy to an outside wide receiver that's playing X, flanker, slot, killing man and press coverage, which is just shocking, that kind of growth. So I think he's an awesome, awesome worker. And so I want to compare the 2 players side by side, Jordan Tyson and Casey Concepcion. The raw production-wise, Tyson does have a better best season, but Casey Concepcion, he's an early declare. They both were early breakouts. And like I said, as a YAC player, give me Casey Concepcion. I think he's more versatile too, which he actually won the award. It's called the Paul Hornung Award for most versatile player in college football because you can put him anywhere. As a punt returner, you could give him handoffs, which, speaking of, he had a ton of carries in his freshman season and did very, very good in that department. So you're telling me as a route runner, you're comparing Tyson to Concepcion. Give me Concepcion. With the ball in their hands, give me Concepcion. The age is actually closer than you think, given that Casey is a early declare and Tyson is a 4th-year player. So age, I'm going to kind of throw that out the window. I think as a contested guy, I prefer Jordan Tyson. And the drops, that is the issue for Casey Concepcion. I don't value drops as much as a lot of people. I think that's overall, when you look at mid to high drop players, I think that's a lot less valuable than most profile points for a player. I don't know why Casey Concepcion cannot be better than Jordan Tyson. So give me a better landing spot. And honestly, I might do that. If you put Tyson on the New York Jets and you give Casey Concepcion like the Bills or something, I'm pretty tempted, and I might take Casey Concepcion in that instance right there.
Yeah, shout out Paul Hornung, by the way, Packers legend, quarterback, place kicker, safety. He played some other positions too. You brought him up. Look, I don't hate Casey Concepcion. Relative to where I think they're going to go in our drafts, he might be my favorite wide receiver. I think a lot of the things you said are fair. I don't think you can ignore 19 drops in his career. I don't put a lot of value in drops, but it's something. It is. And from what I hear, like, it's not so much like the hard ones, like he can go up and get it. The concentration drops, I think you can fix, but there's some over the middle where he's a little scared. I don't know. I know Tyson, we were just talking about Tyson's concern after the catch point as well. So I get it. I know he tested well in reception, perception, success against zone coverage, but I don't think you can ignore a career under 2 yards per out run against zone. That is historically really bad. Like, I'm willing to overlook it a little bit because I really like the player. But when we're comparing with someone else who I love, career, like, it has some blemishes, sure, but the data is a little bit better. Like, we're talking 34th percentile career yards per out run versus 57th for Tyson, 43rd to 68th when we're talking first downs per out run. You mentioned breakout age. It's funny because Concepcion is a little bit older as a freshman, so he has a 90th percentile compared to 99th. Ignore that. They both broke out as freshmen. So, like, I'm not trying to argue that there. But Tyson has been his passing offense everywhere he's been. Concepcion has been a good player, but even this year you could argue Mario Craver was the better wide receiver for that team, Texas A&M. You never really argued that against Tyson. He's always been the guy, and that's who I'm going to bet on. But again, this isn't trying to be a knock on Concepcion. I really love
Concepcion. In my most recent startup draft, where rookies were included, I took him, I believe, at the 512. I think I took Tyson at the 508. So not a whole lot of picks in between the two for me. And I don't view the difference as giant, but I definitely do view the difference. I definitely have a preference, and it definitely is Tyson. I do think Concepcion is climbing, and I do think JP made the case in some of our recent trade talks in our pick series that he kind of is almost, for me, cementing himself on an island as 106, more or less. Maybe a few landing spots for Sadiq that could change that, Chiefs. But I think I really do agree that he is a phenomenal player. Definitely a great conversation. Will be fun to see where they both go in the NFL draft.
My next guy is been kind of a podcast my guy for a while. I figured we had to talk about him on the show. If I didn't do it, somebody else was probably going to do it. But I went ahead and volunteered as tribute. Got our guy Emmett Johnson, running back out of Nebraska. He's someone JP and I found kind of early in the season. He had a couple of big blowout games, came onto our radar, and he's gone everywhere from he's RB2 to now he's a 5th round pick. And I don't know exactly where this guy's going to go, but I really like the way he plays. He was pretty much Nebraska's offense, especially once Raiola got hurt. Top 10 in the nation in carries, yards, missed tackles forced, carries over 10 yards, first down runs, receiving yards, a few other things. Efficiency-wise, like he's never been super elite anywhere. At or slightly above average in missed tackles forced per attempt, 10 yards, carries of 10 yards or more, yards per outrun. Like some things we really care about. And that's just that's this year and in his breakout year and over his career. So he's not a home run hitter. He's probably not going to be like a tier 1 running back ever, but he's really consistent. He's got great feet. He's got good bend. He is agile. He's just not the top end speed kind of guy. I think he's a good receiver, good enough receiver. But a lot of it was screen work, to be fair. But I think he's a good enough receiver and a good enough pass protector that you're not going to have to take him out. So if he gets to a spot where he could be the guy there, I think he has a real chance to take the job and, at least hold it for a few years and have maybe that like Chase Brown, Kyron Williams, like will they, won't they kind of few years where you really like having them on your team, but they don't have a ton of trade value. I could see him following that path.
I think the name that comes to mind when I just watch his wiggle with the ball, just not that he's, 1 for 1 for this guy, but just also another name of like a path that a player he could follow is like the Bucky Irving type of, might not be early draft capital, but just great at just avoiding getting 10 yards where he should have gotten 3, getting 15 where he should have gotten 7, right? And how that can add up. JP, I want to let you talk about him a little bit before I go to my guy too, just because I know he is an our guy and specifically has been a U2's guy for a long time, several months.
Yeah, you have to watch this guy. If you have not watched highlights of him, it's just beautiful because there's so many times where you're like, oh, he's squared if he's going down. He just consistently creates more yards than is there. He's a little hole hopper is what makes me think of. Like he's hopping from hole to hole like so quickly. He's reading, diagnosing, and he's just so decisive. Like he's reading it and he's acting so quickly because I think his vision is just really, really good. And yeah, he's got some wild runs that he breaks 2 or 3 tackles, and you're like, how in the world did he get out of that? So I think he has that special ability to his game.
All right, yeah, love him. Definitely think he's a great play. Do want to just go ahead and push a little bit. This is the first time we're doing this. How much does draft capital matter, David? 3rd round, you are 4th, 5th.
You can't ignore it. It's the strongest sign that we have. We got to admit that. We got to accept that. But I like the player. If he gets to a good spot, like this is a weaker class, he's still going to be a mid-second rounder for me. It's about where in the 2nd round. Now, if he goes in the 2nd and he's our RB2 and we can make a case for him at 108 or something, that's awesome. I'd love that. But I think realistically speaking, round 3 to round 5-ish, I'm going to take him somewhere in the early to mid-second is where he'll probably end up.
I would love to get him a lot in the mid. On early second, it's definitely going to be lower. We have seen some really good profiles fall. Like we've seen Bucky Irving and Kyron Williams, and just last year, I think Tootin and Cam Scadaba both had really good profiles as well. They went in the 4th round, which that was a different draft class, of course. But yeah, you give me him in the round 4, and I'll be over the moon to take him, even at 205.
If he's falling to 302, I'm getting aggressive. I've already been aggressive. I'd tell you if he's on the clock and we're at 302, I've probably already sent out like 50 offers trying to get him.
My guy here, my kind of middle price to lower price guy, going to be wide receiver out of UConn, Skylar Bell. I kind of view this guy as a late second-ish in my rookie drafts, early third, just depending on what I have. And I view him as a guy that I think really could produce quite a bit over his career. I love what he did in college. Now, he started out at Wisconsin. I'm a big Badgers fan, and yeah, this isn't the position for him. So he didn't do a whole lot when he was with Wisconsin, right? He didn't really break out until his first year at UConn, right? In fact, he fell down the depth chart in 2023 after starting in 2022, and then was Litnikoff finalist. So I think it just shows that he was kind of mismanaged by a program that honestly just doesn't know what they're doing. No offense, my Badgers, but you guys have kind of lost your ways and have never been a wide receiver place. So in his 2 years at UConn, his first year as a starter, he had a solid year, kind of a breakout year. But this year, he was phenomenal. And while he had some great counting numbers, it's the advanced metrics we really care about, right? He is one of two guys in this class, wide receivers we are discussing, that is above 3 yards per route run, right? It's him, it's Lemon. These guys are right up there. Well, Lemon, I think, is a much better, well-rounded wide receiver prospect. Getting the only other guy that can do that and potentially getting him, pretty late in my drafts, I love that. And then this guy is athletic, right? So looking at his unofficial RAS score, 9.65, it's all green outside of his height and his weight. So he's about 5'11 and a half, rounds up to 6 foot, when JP was talking about that if you pass that 0.5. And then 192. So not big, but also not small. He's big enough at wide receiver, and he is explosive. He's about a 4.4 flat 40-yard dash, good 20-yard split, good 10-yard split. All of this is in the 90th percentile. And then also explosive, elite explosion RAS score from a vertical and broad jump. So quick, fast, all of the things that you want. And I think he's a great route runner. I'm very excited for reception perception data to come out. David and I were just pouring over, has it released, did not see it yet. That'll be kind of one more piece of the pie that if that comes in good, honestly, I might end up with 50% exposure of this guy just because I have a lot of seconds in some leagues. And I think I'll be taking him over a lot of the other popular wide receivers in the second that I think we're lower on as a podcast. And never hurts to take another Badger and kind of, even if he's outcast for the Badgers, add that to my fantasy football portfolio as well.
Guy has a 98th percentile burst score. So, yeah, I'm with you. If his route running data looks really good, then I'm going to want to have a lot of shares of this guy because if you have the size, the athleticism, you check in the production box, it's a little bit later production, but otherwise, yeah, he could be a player that we're just in love with the profile and we're able to get him at a pretty good price point. All right, so I am going to go with my second my guy here is going to be Jonah Coleman, which looking on Keep Trade Cut, he's actually their 13th ranked rookie. So technically in the second round, but we're taking him before that. I think we all like him more than the 13th best rookie. But man, it's just a profile that I love. And he makes me think of David Montgomery, Cam Scatterbo. Like I'm talking about guys that if you're proven to be a good goal line running back, that is one of the most valuable things in fantasy football. It's touchdowns. Second, maybe tied or better, is receiving. His 1.73 yards per route run shows me that he is a very capable running back. And also, what was something that I found very interesting, it was something that Ian Hartitz actually put out there on Twitter, shout out. He made a ranking of, it's the RB little things and how good they are with their ball security, pass blocking, drop rate, and all that stuff. He came out as the best in this draft class as well. So I think that's going to be a part of his game that coaches really appreciate. You're protecting the ball, you're protecting the quarterback. Also, part of his profile that I love the most is the missed tackles forced and the yards under contact per attempt. Now, this year, he had a lower body injury, and that really held back his productivity. Early in the season, he was on fire. Like, he was looking like, wow, this guy might be a round one prospect. He was in that conversation before his injury slowed him down. Now, the athleticism at this point probably would have knocked him out because we haven't seen that. But like David Montgomery ran a 4.63. Is Cam Scatterbo a speedster? No. Devon Achane We know this guy is so explosive. He had 4 runs over 40 yards last year. Like, how often do these things really happen? It only happens like 1 in 4 or 5 games, even if you are really explosive. So I don't care that much about the long speed. I care about the down to down things. And that's the stuff that he just does so good. The missed tackles forced per attempt, he's the best in this class when you look at players that have at least 400 carries. So he's borderline elite in that area. And if you look at players with at least 500 carries in college in the FBS since 2014, he had the 4th best missed tackles forced behind Bijan Robinson, Ashton Genty, and David Montgomery. That's it. And then one guy right behind him is Travis Etienne. So 3 of those 4 guys went in round 1. The other one was David Montgomery in round 3. So I don't know why this guy would not go round 2. Like, it kind of perplexes me because he's doing everything that you want except for the long speed, which we've seen. Guys are being plenty successful without that long speed. So I'm going to have a lot of Jonah Coleman. I'm very confident in him being my RB2 right now. Even if he's drafted as RB4, like, I might still have him as my RB2 just given the other running backs that could be going ahead of him.
Yeah, big Jonah Coleman fan here as well. I think maybe the question about draft capital applies a little better to him even than Emmett Johnson. If he falls in the class, I'm going to be pretty happy to get him at a discount. If it's a really bad spot and he falls, it's going to suck and I'm going to have to reevaluate. But I think, like JP said, he's got a good shot to be the guy wherever he goes, and he can do just about everything you want a running back to do, except for breakaway big runs, which if you're doing everything else well, that's fine. We can live with that. My guy here, someone I think probably going what I've seen, like 4th to fab range, but I think he's got a good shot of rising up into the 3rd once the NFL draft's over. Ole Miss tight end Daquan Wright, a late riser in my books. He's someone I knew about over the process. I'd heard his name, but it wasn't. It took me a while to realize he's someone that should be on my radar. We were actually doing our rookie tight end tiers list, and I was looking over his profile. I was like, huh, that's pretty nice. Oh, that's good. Oh, that's nice too. And so we ended up rising him up a tier. And then studying for this one, I found something else new. I didn't realize last year he played through what has been described as a major shoulder injury. Obviously, he was able to play through it at a pretty high level. Still 4th in the nation among tight ends in receiving yards. Look at tight ends with at least 30 targets. 1st in yards per reception, 1st in yak, 1st in yak per reception, 5th in first down receptions. 1 of 9 tight ends with 50 or more targets that also had over 2 yards per out run. And look, I want to take a minute here to talk about why I care about blocking as a tight end and to what level that I care about blocking as a tight end. I'll keep it quick. Daquan Wright has the 3rd most total blocking snaps of any tight end that we talk about that we care about in this class. Now, maybe there's a tight end you care about that's higher than him. I don't know. The point is he takes a lot of snaps where he was out there blocking. Reps are important. So is the coach trusting you to block. I don't care if you're a good blocker necessarily. I want you to be out there on running downs so that if it happens to be a pass play on that running down, you're out there to run a route where you can catch a ball and maybe score some fantasy points. I don't think you need to be an elite blocker. I just think the coaches need to trust you. And based on what I've seen, the Ole Miss coaches trusted Daquan Wright to block. The NFL coaches will do the same because you pair that with what this guy does do well. Very high-end yak player, like I said, very productive, just a really good athlete, maybe not quite as agile as you like, maybe a little tighter. But that's fine. He's a tight end. He's a big guy. He's not juking people out of their shoes. He's big. He's fast. I really like him as a dart throw tight end in this class.
Yeah, I've already added him on a taxi squad just because of all the things that you're saying. Who is it that is winning you leagues in Dynasty Fantasy Football? I'm not saying I'm predicting Wright will be a league winner. Obviously, if we were, I think we'd be, quite a bit more of our shoes than this. But Tucker Kraft last year, right? McBride, Bowers, Kittle, right? All guys that are able to do it after the catch, because guys that can do it after the catch, they are a cheat code at the tight end position because they are so much bigger than those cornerbacks. If you have just enough wiggle to get around the linebackers and then bowl over the cornerbacks, and right at his size, at the athleticism he seems to show, love to see that. I took him in the startup that I recently did, just off of everything that you said, David. And I think with the price you can potentially get him for, I think he's not going to rise so high. I don't see a world where he rises above the process of me wanting to take him, because 3rd round tight end in a tight end premium, which is a lot of what I play, love it. And honestly, he is the kind of rare exception of the type of guy that in one tight end, are you actually still pretty interested in that same, third round range? Just because I think he does potentially have difference maker in the round of outcomes where a lot of tight ends might not.
Yeah, I mean, even in non-tight end premium, I think it's going to feel weird, but I think in this year's draft with the depth of the tight end position, I think in non-tight end premium, you're still going to have to take some shots on some guys and just hope.
All right, so my next guy here going to be the position I'm always taking shots on and hoping, and that is a running back from Navy, Eli Heinrich. So love this guy for a multitude of reasons. Athletic, pretty surprising, honestly. His unofficial RAS score is 9.12, 40-yard dash, 4.44. Very happy for that, for this 6 foot, 199-pound weapon. And I think that's what he is. Now, his explosion grade is just good, right? His composite explosion, he's in the 72nd-ish percentile. Vertical, broad, not phenomenal, but I'm happy with that. What I really love about this guy is the fact that he played running back and wide receiver for Navy, right? Like, what's his position even? He had 941 receiving yards on 51 receptions while also having 499 rushing yards and 77 carries. Previous seasons, 39 receptions, 671 yards, 19 receptions, 382. Just increased his workload every season and played both positions, and I think played both positions well. I see a guy who is great at beating people with the ball in his hand, decent at beating people on routes, and I think a team is going to draft him as a weapon. Like, I'm not predicting second round. I'm not counting on, but would not be shocked by end of the third kind of compensatory range. And I really do think early fourth is a pretty, I think a team is just going to fall in love with what they could do with this guy as a weapon. And more importantly, like, I really do think there's something to the fact that this guy here is just he's a dog. People don't go to Navy because they have character issues. A guy that's going there, he puts in the work. He does what he's supposed to do. He's out there doing the reps, doing the things, doing whatever it is that he has to do. The 4.73 yards per hour run we see on the screen right now, that's absurd. I don't think that's going to translate to the NFL at all. It's the oddity of the unicorn of a position in a kind of gimmicky offense. Could he be a guy that I think with 40% of the snaps can easily be an RB2, getting 30-40% of the snaps on an NFL team if they really just use him efficiently? Honestly, with his receiving chops in the right situation, James White type of role, and what I love the most about this guy is in most or all of these situations that I've talked about, late third, early fourth, maybe even further on, he's affordable. This is a guy that I'm comfortable paying a early or third for, or a late second for, if he gets third, fourth round draft capital. And otherwise, I think you can get him quite a bit later. This is a guy in my most recent startup. He went mid-20s. In our pre-NFL draft, rookie draft, I think I got him at the 403, 404. I think I traded Lamar Jackson for him. Might have been part of a bigger deal. And I think this is going to be my biggest flag plant guy simply because he is the cheapest. And I think he just has a phenomenal amount of upside between the rushing, the receiving, the athleticism, and what he could do if he actually gets close to 60, 70% of the work in a backfield.
Definitely checks a lot of the boxes for what you want to see in a late round target, which I think when you're looking at late round running backs, you want to have a receiving profile, which he emphatically checks that box. And the athleticism is very strong. I mean, the 4.44 40-yard dash and 98th percentile agility score. So definitely a pretty strong upside case for a player that you can get late here. And my guy, I think is probably the least surprising if you've been listening to some of our tight end episodes, and that's going to be tight end Justin Joly. He's just somebody that I love, and at the price point, what I'm seeing is around a third. I'm taking him in like the early to mid third, so I honestly I don't know how much further he's fallen past that because I'm scooping him up everywhere. But the profile is just one that I really love. I mean, you go back to just how he started his career, and he broke out as a freshman. His breakout age is 98th percentile. He's already checking that box. And then he just goes on he played 2 years. He started his career at UConn. And we just saw growth from him. And then I love that he stepped up in competition level up to North Carolina State, where actually he played alongside another my guy, Casey Concepcion, in 2024. He outproduced Concepcion that year. I don't know what happened with Concepcion that year, if it was a role injury thing. That's the one just confusing part of Casey Concepcion's profile to me. But Jolie doing that alongside a potential first round wide receiver is just very, very impressive. And also, he is awesome at winning contested catches. Now, this is the best career contested catch rates by a tight end in PFF college history. It's 2014 through 2025. This is power conference only, at least players with 25 career contested targets. Justin Jolie's first. He's the best contested catch rate at 66%. Right behind him is Tyler Warren, Tanner Koziel, actually in this class, and Michael Mayer. So he wins at the catch point. He is a former wide receiver, so he has those ball skills. He definitely does. And also, he wins after the catch too. His missed tackles forced per attempt is only behind Michael Trigg by 0.01 at the missed tackles forced per attempt rate. It's awesome. It's almost a 0.3. But the missed tackles forced, you see here on the screen, it's not that great because in week 9 against Pitt, he suffered a hamstring injury, which it's an awesome video. You see him hobbling all the way into the end zone. But since that point of that injury, he didn't force another missed tackle, so he didn't have that many tackles forced this year. But on his career, even with that accounted in, his missed tackles forced per attempt is 0.28. That's a really, really good number. So you're telling me I got a guy that's winning contested catches, so he's probably going to get a lot of red zone targets. He's winning after the catch, so he's going to get more than what's really there. And also, he's a pretty good athlete. So at that point in the draft, sure, he might miss. It's the 3rd round. But if I'm going to be swinging on a guy, I want to have a guy with this kind of upside.
Truly, you inspired me, honestly, in my most recent draft that I've referenced several times. I have Jolie. I have Coleman. I have Concepcion. I really like the cases you're making for all these guys and really love the case you're making for Jolie. Now, JP, if he goes day 2, how high are you taking him? If he goes round 4 or 5, what's kind of the point you're looking to try to take him then?
If he goes day 2, I'm probably going to take him in the mid to late second, maybe 208, 209. But if he goes round 4, I'm still going to take the swing in the early to mid 3rd round, 5th round. At that point, I might need to, wait towards like the 3-4 turn. But even if he falls that far, I still like the profile a lot for the upside that he presents.
I definitely like the profile as well there. Honestly, love all of these players here. I think it's really fun kind of planting our flags and in just doing the research on these guys. Like there were other guys I think we've all, of course, considered that when we did more research on, we maybe fell slightly less in love with them or fell out of love a little bit, right? So digging into this is a phenomenal process. Would love to hear about your guys' process, your guys in the comments below. Truly, we learn a lot from just our engagement with the YouTube audience. So would love to hear from anybody. So that being said, thank you for joining us for another fun episode of the Dyno Construction Podcast. We hope you found this as helpful for you as it was for us. Please remember to like and subscribe wherever you listen or view. And from all of us here at the Dyno Construction Podcast, until next time.